Press on. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing in the world is more uncommon than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent.
Alright, glad you could join me again. Let's see what I got going in the garage. Now, I was just in here, did that shooting test of the 3D printed rifled paintball rounds. If you haven't seen that, go ahead and check that video out. That was my last video. But let's come over here. So I just had an idea. I'm building a forge, or a foundry, excuse me, gas furnace / foundry, used for melting metal. It's for one of my businesses. I need to make these plaques for a new type of burial. I'll get into that in a later video, but it's for my business Living Memories. But I just had an idea. I was going to build a pretty unique design of burner for my foundry, and it was going to use some technology I saw in a video called, it's from a channel called MKS Boy Cell. It's called the Boy Cell Burner. I was kind of tossing it up in the air because I had my own design that uses the same air pump he uses, the same type of siphon nozzle, which he was nice enough to send me actual plans for the siphon nozzle, which I thought was awesome. He emailed it to me. It was perfectly detailed. He spent a lot of time on it. Some guy in the Philippines, I believe, but it's called MKS Boy Cell or Boy Cell Burner. Just search that on YouTube. It's freaking great. And then there's NoBox7. He's another channel I watch on YouTube. He has created a burner which can get up above 2,300 degrees on straight propane. Although his design uses an air compressor, which, you know, I mean, it's not sustained operation like MKS Boy Cells, which that's the benefit to his. Also, his is quiet and it uses low power. It only uses 60 watts, his. So I was just going to daisy chain two 30-watt commercial air pumps that I have that are just the same as the ones he uses. And I was going to use essentially I was going to use the burner that my friend Dave gave me, and I was just going to modify it and add these little two-stroke bikes. A lot of them inside of the exhaust, they have a catalytic converter on the more modern ones. This is an old one, but this was a modern engine, but I have a totally custom exhaust that goes on it, so I can't really show you. But the modern ones come with a little catalytic converter to make them probably comply with emissions, which I highly doubt they do. But the catalytic converter works. I've run it straight piped right through that cat, and it glows red. I mean, it gets solid red, and the engines blow blue flames. You know, when I got them tuned up perfectly, I get blue flame out of that, so it's only a couple inches away from the exhaust port. So that catalytic converter does burn the unburned fuel, and that's the point of it. So I wanted to utilize that in my burner design. Now, so I went on MKS Boy Cell's burner, and I saw that actually somebody who comments, I believe her name's Delicious to Blair, she's super smart. Probably one of the smartest commenters I've seen on YouTube. I like her attitude. She's usually pretty positive. And so she was on MKS Boy Cell's comments about his burner. She probably saw it on NoBox7 because I kind of talked it up on there. And I was like, okay, cool, you know. And so I started talking about the burner design that I'm coming up with that utilizes the two air pumps daisy chained, and it'll work great. I know it will. And then the catalytic converter is the kicker, and then the thermal mass, essentially catalytic heat dump that you preheat with the propane. Now I mix my propane different. I don't really need I only need the siphon nozzle to pull in oil. So when I turn a valve, it pulls in oil, just like MKS Boy Cell's burner. But my propane, I don't need to inject. I don't need a secondary injection site because I actually inject it right into the air pump. I did a lot of tests. I know it sounds crazy to inject propane into an electric device. It works fine. It mixes the propane with the air homogeneously. And I can get a stoichiometric ratio just by adjusting the propane flow. And I can control the airflow too. because I have a rheostat essentially, or controllable power. It just plugs in. It's a plug with a slide switch, and I hook that to my air pump, and I can run it up and down in power. Now I've only ran it on full blast because I've only run the 30 watt through my Blue Flame oil burner test. That was my original one I was going to use for my foundry. I got an old video if you want to check it out. Blue Flame oil burner test. I actually used this paint gun right here as a siphon nozzle. I think it still has the, no, maybe it was one back there. Yeah, it was the one back in there. See how it has the zip tie on the handle? And I just used that, the valve to control the oil input. And I ran oil mixed with mineral spirits, 2575. I used sunflower oil. I got a pretty good burn, and just for 30 watts. But I never thought about daisy chaining the two air pumps, because if you know anything about pumps, if you daisy chain them, you hook one pump to another, you can increase the flow quite a bit. I just saw a sprinkler video the other day where a guy, he was out in the Middle East or somewhere, and they had taken two water pumps and hooked them together, one right after the other, and they were shooting water like 300 feet, no shit. And I mean, they were two 2 horsepower pumps, but the 4 horsepower, normally you can't pump that kind of flow, but they only had like 1.5 inch outputs, and they had them daisy chained together, or connected output to input. And this thing was blowing water 300 feet in a garden hose sized stream, which I thought quite incredible. It reminded me of that fact that you can daisy chain things. So anyway, getting back, getting way off track again. But essentially, I've been trying to come up with the best foundry burner, and I want it to be unique. And it's all cool. Everybody fucks around with their different, their different designs for oil burners. But I just had, while I was typing to Delicious to Blair, I had an idea, because I said something about how my 2-stroke bikes blow blue flames. So here's the idea. Gonna get a hold of a, the gas-powered driveway blowers. I could use a 2-stroke backpack blower, but I'm not going to. I have a push-behind one my boss has at work, my soon-to-be former boss. He is a good friend of mine. Let's see if he still has that thing laying around. If not, I can probably acquire one somehow. Or I could either, get a gas-powered air compressor. I haven't really decided yet, but basically something that can blow air or pump air that's gas-powered, like 5 horse, like this Predator engine. And here's the idea. I'm going to make a foundry burner that utilizes not only the exhaust gas and the exhaust heat from a 4-stroke engine. Of course, it'll be running. I can control the flow of it depending on how much throttle I give. And so I'm getting heat from the exhaust, and that's going to be dumped into a burn chamber. The heat of the full exhaust just dumped right into a burn chamber. And then not only that, on the other side of the burn chamber, with a swirl intake, I'm going to use either a gas-powered air compressor, or most likely one of those big walk-behind blowers. And then I'll just put down a Venturi on it to shrink down the airflow. And those things will pump air pretty good, because I got another invention. I used to run an industrial. It was essentially a vacuum for sucking out insulation out of attics. It was 10 horsepower. It's the same thing as those blowers, but you just basically attach a big giant bag. Well, anyway, I got a whole invention based off of that was amazing, and it's got lots of uses, but I'll go into that in a further video. But long story short, that thing would build some serious pressure, because I actually pumped up these long plastic tubes, it's called lay flat plastic tubing. I pumped it up over 100 feet long, and it inflated it instantly, and it put it under pressure because I put a restriction point on it. So my point is, those can develop pressure. And so a walk-behind blower with the exhaust output of the air constricted down with a Venturi point, and then pushed in, or pumped in essentially by the engine's power, it's going to force air into this burn chamber, okay? So now I have all the BTUs from the gas engine running, which, gas engines are only 80%. These little 5 horses, they're only 20% efficient. That means 80% of the heat or 80% of the energy is going out the muffler in heat or out the exhaust head, you know, the air cooling fins. And that's where it's all going. You're only getting 20% of that converted to mechanical motion. That's how all gasoline engines are. They're super inefficient. You're losing all your energy right out your muffler. That's kind of the highest really efficiency you'll see on those. And it could be argued, but Toyota has one that's 40% now. And we're talking over 120 years after it was developed. I mean, the Carter Blackstone oil engine was running 15% way back in the 1800s. So they really haven't improved all that much if you take into consideration the time and the amount. But anyway, getting back to my idea, all that heat is wasted BTUs is going to be utilized by my burn chamber. Also, exhaust gas moves fast. Everybody knows that. That's how turbochargers work. And normally you spin up a rotor and you create air pump that way. Well, I'm not doing that. I'm going to use a big impeller because this is a stationary mounted thing. It doesn't have to push an engine around. It's just simply to provide heat for my blower, because what I'm going to do is in that burn chamber, not only am I going to have exhaust gas, I'll have an adjustable airflow, obviously, that can be pumped under pressure. So I'll have an extreme amount of air available to me, depending on how much throttle I give that engine or how much I restrict that incoming air. So I've got a very controllable system. And then I can inject propane, used motor oil, vegetable oil, pretty much any fuel at any flow rate that I want to through a siphon nozzle, gravity feed, drip feed. There's a lot of potential for this. I'm going to definitely go ahead and test her out, because if I can get that tuned in and dialed in right, and it just runs off of some gasoline engine, and put gas in the engine and put my input fuel. I know it sounds clunky and big and large compared to all these other ideas, but you know what? It's my burner. And I'm sure somebody's done something similar out there. I just never have searched because I just thought of it. But using a 5 horsepower engine, I mean, that thing will run all day on that one tank of gas, and I only need a couple hours of heat for my foundry burner. So I'm not going to use that much fuel. There's a couple dollars in fuel, maybe, not even. And then, of course, my propane input. And just the sky's the limit with this idea, because the bigger I make the burn chamber, the more powerful the pump. That's just going to equate to higher temperatures and faster heat delivery. I mean, I might be able to end up running this thing at idle on one of these engines. You just never know until I try. But anyway, that's the idea in a nutshell. Just thought I had to put it on video just to get it out there, because I'm going to do it. And I'm not even going to monkey around with the burner I was talking about that I got from my friend Dave over here. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to dig that out later. So look for my future videos. I mean, I may utilize this in some fashion, and I may even still build it. I'm not sure. But the idea is there. It's in my mind now. I appreciate you watching. If you like this kind of stuff, you like talking, you don't mind listening to me, my loud breathing, and all my goofy ideas. You just like, subscribe, give me a comment. I like comments most of all. Thank you.